She was ashamed of the woman who sacrificed everything for her. To impress her rich friends, she looked at her own hardworking mother and called her the maid. But what she didn't know was that her mother into something secret, and that one moment of shame would cost her everything. When the truth came out at the biggest university event, her downfall was the most humiliating sight imaginable. This story is a lesson for every child who disrespects their parents. But wait, my loves, let us start from the beginning. This is the story of a young girl who forgot where she came from. She was so busy chasing status that she didn't see the queen standing right in her own home. Chioma was a university girl living large. Her friends were all from wealthy families, and she worked hard to keep up with their lifestyle. What her friends didn't know was that Chioma's mother, Mama Nkechi, sold tomatoes in the market and cleaned offices to pay her fees. Chioma was deeply ashamed of her mother. She told her friends her parents were abroad and changed the subject whenever they asked. One afternoon, Mama Nkechi worried her daughter wasn't eating well. She prepared a big pot of stew and brought it to the university. She arrived in her market clothes, stained from work. She stood at the gate, looking for her daughter with hope in her eyes. Chioma was with her friends when she saw her mother. Her blood ran cold. All her lies were about to be exposed. Her friends asked, "Chioma, who is that woman looking at you?" In that moment of panic, Chioma made the worst decision of her life. She sneered and said, "That's just our maid." The words hung in the air like poison. Her friends laughed, but her mother's face. Mama Nkechi didn't say a word. She simply placed the food on the ground, turned, and walked away. Her silence was louder than any shouting. Chioma expected screaming phone calls. She expected drama. But her phone remained silent. This silence was more terrifying than anger. A week later, her bank alert started coming. Insufficient funds. Her allowance had been cut off. The reality began to sink in. Her wealthy friends quickly disappeared when she could no longer pay for outings. She learned the hard way, fair weather friends leave when the money dries up. For the first time in her life, Chioma had to look for work. She found a job as a server in a restaurant, and let me tell you, it was not easy. She struggled to pay her rent, to buy food. The privileged life she had taken for granted was gone in the blink of an eye. Desperate, she went home to apologize. But the house was empty. Mama Nkechi had moved out without leaving a forwarding address. A family friend finally took pity on her. "My dear," she said, "you have no idea who your mother really is." She revealed the truth. Mama Nkechi's cooking was so legendary that she had started catering for governors and celebrities. The very traditional recipes Chioma had looked down on were now feeding the most powerful people in the city. The irony was bitter. Mama Nkechi had used her market profits to start Mama Cake's Gourmet traditional cuisine. The business was now the talk of the town. Heartbroken by her daughter's rejection, Mama Nkechi poured all her energy into her business. Her success was her revenge. Chioma got a job as a server for the university's annual alumni dinner. It was the biggest event of the year, and she needed the money. As she arranged plates in the grand hall, she read the program. The keynote speaker and caterer was Mama Cake's Gourmet traditional cuisine. When Mama Nkechi walked onto that stage, elegantly dressed and radiating confidence, Chioma dropped her tray. The crash echoed through the hall. All her professors, the vice-chancellor, everyone stood applauding her mother. The woman she had called a maid was being treated like royalty. Mama Nkechi began speaking about her journey. She spoke about sacrifice, about working 3 jobs to give her child the education she never had. She talked about traditional recipes passed down through generations, and how she almost lost hope when her own child rejected her heritage. Then she told them about the day at the university gates. She didn't name names, but she described the scene in painful detail. The entire hall fell silent. You could hear a pin drop. People started connecting the dots, looking from mother to daughter. Chioma stood frozen, the weight of her shame crushing her. She saw her professors' disappointed faces, her classmates' shocked expressions. In that moment, she finally understood the magnitude of her mother's sacrifice. The woman she was ashamed of was actually a powerhouse. Something broke inside Chioma. The pride, the pretense, the shame, it all crumbled. She started walking toward the stage. She didn't care about the staring eyes or the whispers. The only person that mattered was the woman on that stage. When she reached the stage, she fell to her knees. The sound echoed through the microphone. "Mommy, I'm sorry," she cried. The whole hall watched as she confessed everything. "I was ashamed of you, but I'm the one who should be ashamed. You're the strongest woman I know." She told everyone about her mother's struggles, the market, the cleaning jobs, everything she had been too proud to acknowledge. Mama Nkechi looked at her broken daughter. For a long moment, she just stood there, remembering all the pain. Then, slowly, she reached down and helped her daughter up. The gesture was simple, but it spoke volumes. She didn't hug her immediately. The wound was too fresh. But she didn't push her away either. That was the beginning. The Vice-Chancellor himself came forward. "We are proud to have the child of such an accomplished woman in our institution," he said. That night, Chioma went home with her mother for the first time in months. The house was different, bigger, nicer, but the silence was heavy. Chioma started working in her mother's business. Not as the owner's daughter, but as a kitchen assistant. She had to earn her place. She discovered that her mother's simple recipes were actually complex family secrets that took years to master. The other employees knew what had happened. They watched her closely, testing her sincerity. She had to prove herself every day. Slowly, through early mornings and late nights, through burned fingers and tired feet, mother and daughter began to rebuild. It took months before Mama Nkechi could look at her daughter without seeing that day at the university gates. The breakthrough came when Chioma developed a new dish that combined traditional methods with modern presentation. Her mother actually smiled. Chioma never regained her wealthy friends, and you know what? She didn't want them. She found better friends among the kitchen staff. She graduated and joined her mother's business properly, using her education to help expand the company while respecting its roots. The story ends with them opening their third restaurant. Mama Nkechi introduces Chioma as "my daughter and partner." No titles could sound sweeter. And Chioma learned the hardest lesson of all: true class isn't about where you're from, but about knowing where you belong and honoring those who got you there. My lovely listeners, if you enjoyed this story, please subscribe for more Zoe Folktales. See you next week, my loves.